I think we'll get started. We'll call to order status updates from chairs, website and social media. Jihan.
For the social media, I've just been sharing like every day leading up to the meetings, but I've also been sharing in Facebook groups, and I saw Charles had also shared a bunch, so thank you, Charles. But if anyone else is a part of Facebook groups, I think coming directly from you as a commissioner might be more personal than just me sharing. So you're welcome to do that as well, share, about the next meeting, April 7th.
Okay. John, you have some interesting information regarding the council districts.
Yeah, I just couldn't let it go. I took advantage of President Helen Hudson being at our meeting the other night. I wanted to ask her publicly, but Molly put the arm on me, so I asked her privately, what would be the result if we tried to create more common council districts? And I said, we have more neighborhoods than districts in the city. And she agreed with me, and she said, that's the end goal. That's the ultimate goal, at least in her mind, is one day the city of Syracuse will have more than 5 common council districts. That's not our goal. We're stuck with creating 5 common council districts. But she suggested at the end of this, we recommend for the next commission, and that could be part of our end report, that we actually create some more, the next commission would create more common council districts. Because just doing quick math, each counselor in the districts represents like 17,000 people. If we doubled the number of counselors, and if we double the number of single district counselors and at-large counselors, that would give you 1 common counselor for every 6,000 to 7,000 people, which I think is more realistic. But like I said, that's been on her plate the whole time. She's been thinking about redistricting, but it's not going to be for us this time around. So I had to have an official answer to that question. I know what our ordinance says, but I just couldn't believe it, so I asked her. Tony, what you got? You're muted, Tony.
Well, wouldn't that be 8 years from
now? By the time our stuff's done, it'll be 7.
Okay, but 7 years from now?
We've done redistricting since 1960, so that's not a huge amount of time.
Well, but why I ask is because I thought that initially it was not the commission that would create the districts. It's the common councilors who create, or somebody else would create the districts.
Well, however it would happen, it would come from a recommendation from ultimately us if we decide at the end of this that we should have more common council districts. I think we do, but if as a group at the end of this whole process, we submit a report that says, by the way, we think that we should have more representation for less people, you know what I mean? Instead of representing 20,000 people, you should represent 7 or 8.
Understood, and I appreciate that, and I'm hopeful that is a part of what we will be coming to some conclusions on. Again, I'm just going back to what I thought I heard Nader say, was that was someone else's responsibility. So perhaps in that conclusion that we come up with, we say that this needs to be done immediately versus wait for 7 years.
Well, we can make a decision about, we had a job to do first in creating, doing the 5 districts, but, and, we can certainly recommend immediate change if we all agree on that, or recommend change in the next one. So, I guess, like I said, I rarely take Nader's word for anything. Helen has got her finger on the pulse a little bit more than Nader does these days. He's the auditor. He's not on the council anymore. So I just felt compelled to talk to her about it. Graham?
Yeah, thanks. I think a couple of things. It would be easiest and best if the common council did want to increase the number of districts to ask a commission like ours to do it for them. Rather, I mean, if they wanted to snap their fingers in the middle of the census cycle and say, okay, now there are 10 districts instead of 5, somebody's got to draw the lines, and they would either do it themselves, thereby completely undoing everything we've worked at, or they'd have to start the commission cycle again in the middle of a census cycle, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So it would make the most sense to push it to the next decennial. The other thing I wanted to say is I think this is certainly something I think we should definitely have a section in what we submit way at the end after the maps that says things to do better next time.
Mhm.
It will be a log section, but this certainly can be one thing in that section, and I hope I'll make some notes about. It'll be nice to be able to say there, when the common council districts were first drawn in, I don't know, whatever that was, 1860, whatever, each common councilor represented so many people, and just draw the historical sort of line from there to now. Now we need to make some accommodations for how the city's changed the original plan.
Colleen?
I was just gonna say, if they seem to be on board with that idea, why did they write it in the charter in the first place that we can't consider that?
That's what I'm like, that's.
It seems like, I mean, unless they had a vote and, Helen Hudson happened to be on the other side of that, which makes sense probably, but.
I got the impression from Helen that she didn't want to take this too far. It was more important to get citizen-led redistricting and then push the other goals in the future. That's from my conversation with her. That's what I got is first we have to have independent citizen-led redistricting, and then we can tackle the number of common council districts. She's playing the long game, and that's fine for me.
When you had first talked about this, John, at the meeting on Saturday, I think this is probably like a pipe dream and not realistic, but I just have no idea. My thought was I wonder if we submit our almost kind of 2 sets of maps, and it's here's your 5 districts, but actually our real recommendation is this, and this is the dream scenario, and they have the power to be able to change whatever, and then they have recommendations already set if they want to go that way, or if they just want the 5 and they want to do it next time, cool, we have both. I don't know how that works with Josh and mapping, and if that's a whole lot of extra stuff. I wonder if that's a possibility.
Or to what Graham said, even if we gave them that, there's nothing really written to say that they have to go with those recommendations. They could just rewrite them themselves, but at least maybe it would be documented that we did do it fairly, and then maybe they get called out if they try to manipulate it in a way that isn't.
I stepped out for a minute. At an appropriate moment, maybe I can offer a comment here.
Yes, of course.
What's the process for amending the charter? Because usually changing the size of the body requires an amendment to the charter, which probably also requires a public referendum. It differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction based on what the charter says.
I believe you're right, Gerald. I think that would call for a charter change, and those usually are written up by the law department and then presented to the council, who would then vote to have a referendum, just like the referendum that created us. So I love
Reaction would be,
Go ahead.
my reaction would be that you really, that's my reaction. You're really complicating the politics to this, because you confound the new districting with the change in size of the body, and people would make those choices relative to each other. You may run into trouble with the new districting on the current size. Just a concern.
Yeah, it's to back that up. One, it wasn't our charge. Two, you're right, it'll probably take a referendum. And three, it complicates what's going to be somewhat difficult decisions to begin with. It just seems to me that as much as we'd want it, we're not the ones that should be making that decision. It should come out of the Common Council and maybe another commission, but not us.
Jeff? Sorry.
I would tend to agree. The mandate of the commission is to redraw the 5 districts. And if you create a 6th or a 7th district as an alternative, and people like it or don't like it, it can create the firestorms you don't want to see. It could just create so many additional headaches this year that it might be, a noble effort, but a total waste of time. And it's not your job.
Valid points. Okay. So we will stick with our 5 and probably just make a recommendation if all of us feel that way. But that's good perspective. Thank you. Okay. Open issues, debriefing, public hearing. We don't have to go around in our little circle or anything, but to have more of an open discussion, talking about it. But I would ask that people share positives of some sort if you're going to also give feedback of areas to grow. So what did we learn? What are we coming out of the second meeting kind of focusing on and wanting to look at for our future meetings? Colleen.
I thought, considering the turnout, that things went smoothly with having the fixed microphone and not the audio issues, but I would just strongly recommend that we put another level of thought into any weekend meetings or just meeting times and days of the weeks in general to see realistically what we think is going to get us a bigger turnout. But I think that's everyone kind of realizes that already.
Tony.
Once again, I thought Melody did a fantastic job given the limited number of testifiers that we had. I thought she did a fantastic job facilitating the process, sharing the information in the beginning, and certainly allowing for the folks, the dignitaries, to speak to the group as well. So I thought she did a fantastic job with that. As far as a concern, given that we did have such a small number of speakers, I just wonder, so let's say that happens again. What do we do about something like that? That seems like a problem to me. I don't know.
Someone give me a clue. Was it fewer than the first meeting?
Yes.
Yes, it was fewer than the first meeting, and it was pretty much the same people as the last meeting. So okay. Yeah, Maritza, I saw your hand go up, and then we'll go to Jerry.
I'm just going to qualify that, Molly. It was fewer than the last meeting, but there were more politicos there
Yes.
this time. The deputy mayor was online and 2 common counselors. So that was a push. Sorry, that's all I just want to say.
No, perfect.
I was just wondering, I had written down some of the questions that Josh was asking in terms of like the communities we consider ourselves in. And I know we passed out flyers to churches. Have we actually targeted neighborhood associations as well to hand out flyers and to make sure that they know about the meetings?
When you say
Outside of the
neighborhood
key and
association,
Like the North Side,
do you mean
like literally walking into an agency and going, here, we're having this meeting, could you spread the word among your constituents and clients?
Well, I'm just going to push back a little on that because, first of all, I got a job and I do other stuff, so I don't have time to go from agency to agency to agency. I did put it in the school, just the school that I work on. I put it in the church I go to. I was and with Jackie and everybody in the 4th, I think it was pretty much spread pretty widely because I did see it around. I saw it in doors of some buildings and that type of thing. Can I just be blunt and honest and upfront here and say that I don't think there's just enough interest at this point in time. Let something happen, and then there'll be interest. The first map we say we're going to draw, then there's going to be interest, because people are going to feel that they're affected by that. And so, right now it hasn't happened in years. People are not really clear on what it is we're doing. The common councilors there said they were going to put it on their Facebook page and they were going to talk about it and that kind of thing. Maybe that might be helpful, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it's just another. I know we work hard. I know Molly and John work hard, and I know as commissioners we read a lot of stuff, and Jeff is busy and all that, but I don't think it's going to build up until maybe the last one, and I may be wrong on that. But also, in trying to, get more news media there, it's not even interesting them, not at this point. And we do good work, and that's my positive. But it's
if I may,
not. I don't think time it's interesting anymore.
if I may, the required public hearing process in law rarely attracts people. Most people see the things that are real controversial and have this people in the room seeking to speak. But I was a legislator for 12 years, and most of our hearings, but I thought were important, got nobody. And last time I sent a note with Jeff to ask you to not to be discouraged by attendance. Because especially as noted in the early stages, people don't come. It's normal. And then they come along at the end where they have no influence because decisions have already been made or things have moved along a lot. So I thought you were doing well. I think that the logistics improved. You had substantial body appeared and listened to the people who had things to do. And this strategy of trying to fill the time, I think it's natural. And one thing that emerged from the last meeting was maybe people who, Jeff and me and Josh, assuming we will come, say 3 or 4 things to generate a conversation for people to listen to. We're not testifying as a backup, not as part of the program, but if we have to turn to it, and it can be a more prepared source of information for anybody who wants to hear it. But I don't think that my advice would be not to measure yourself or your relative success or your relative progress by attendance.
Exactly.
You could expect attendance for the reasons given.
Agreed.
I don't know, my hand's up. So I don't know if there's anyone else there. That,
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
okay. I agree. We're doing our due diligence with these initial meetings, and we're doing what we need to do. We might get more interest later on, but it's the nature of this community that it's not as if there's going to be one side that is going to try to maximize their impact and draw strangely contorted district lines to minimize the impact of others. We're not in the business of the sort of gerrymandering tricksters that we see in other places, and people know that. If we were in fact intent upon pursuing one political party or one community of interest at the expense of others, people would get more involved. It is because of who we are and our bipartisan nature that sort of attention-grabbing politicization of the process hasn't occurred yet, and hopefully will not occur. That's all.
Thank you, Bruce. I had put it in the chat, but also just to address directly Marisa's query about the neighborhood groups. I think it's a valid point. We had great volunteers who had all those TNT meetings and passed out the digital flyer. And I think next round we would probably just look at other avenues in addition to those to really target some of those neighborhood groups. So it's a valid suggestion. It's something that's important.
And I have time. I'm retired. So, I can certainly, get out there and try to drum up some interest. I agree with, people aren't really going to start reacting until they have something in front of their face that says, these are the maps. But I think it's just worth a try to try to reach out a little bit more. And I'm willing to do that. Knowing that people will not come until they see that first map. But
Colleen.
I think once we do have the maps, or even before, if we reach out to the media outlets that have been asking us for interviews and collecting information from us so far, and see if they're willing to reshare the flyer, the digital flyer, whether it's on their social media or on a little news clip, right prior to some of the meetings, or when we do have the maps, kind of giving that graphic some spotlight too. With an ask, anyways.
Tony?
I think it was also positive to have those front and back leaflets that we had with the question and answer information. The other thing that Maritza and I were talking about is if at some point we could get other languages, if we could get those documents in other languages, that might be helpful as well.
And I do have one suggestion. Really... I'm sorry.
Sorry. I think that is really an important point, Tony. There was a discussion, that we had when we were, I talked to Jihan about this, that I think it's important that we have the interpreters, and Maritza did a lot of good legwork for this meeting, and it fell through, but it was not on any fault of ours. So we had one lined up. So it's good to have an interpreter for our meetings, but we have to do the work to come to these communities with flyers in their languages. How are we reaching out to those people so that they are coming to our meetings? And so I think that's an excellent point that for the second round, we need to kind of think about. There's a lot of things that I would kind of look at of the flyers, definitely different languages, even putting a QR code on, things like that I think will just help with accessibility.
I agree. It was Maritza's idea, and I was like, yeah, we definitely need to do that.
Sorry, Melody, I stepped on you.
Yeah, I did have a suggestion. people feel about this setup? Was it awkward to get up and to come out and identify yourself and then walk on the background? Would have been better if the podium was in the middle. I just a suggestion, a thought.
We can tell you the difference between the first meeting and meeting. There was a marked improvement.
Yeah.
And we'll do better the next one. So it was just if we have a projector in the middle, we can't put the podium in the middle. That's why the podium was off to the side. Maybe we, in a deck setup, we
Okay,
put the
that's all I
screen
need.
off to
Thank
the
you.
side and put the podium in the middle. So, you know, we'll get there. By our last meeting, we will be earning Tony Awards because it's going to be fantastic.
Jihan.
Kudos to your wife because she's diligent and hard. Yeah, and Jihan as well. So yeah.
Go ahead, Jihan.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a point for the neighborhood like distribution of the flyers. So Molly did mention that to me. We should go around to different neighborhoods. Maritza also mentioned having them in different languages. So I will request it from the city Spanish, Arabic, Nepali, and Vietnamese, which are the languages on the city's website. But if anyone has any other languages they feel it should be translated into, we can do that. And I can make kind of like how it's the same 11x7, but it can just be different sections for the different languages. So if anyone wants to send me a message about any other language they need. And also I was thinking of having like a Google Doc where we can share where we have put the flyer and where we should, or suggestions like say you can't make it to like the north side's masjid on Park Avenue, but say I can, so I'll go and drop the flyer off there. That way, like, you know, someone is taking that area and we just know like, okay, this is everywhere we've shared. I feel like that would be helpful, and I'll make that Google Doc so we can all share it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maritza, then Babette.
Okay, I was just thinking, two other languages that have come up quite commonly are Bhutanese and Korean. I would like to touch base, if it's okay with everybody, touch base with the ELL department at the Syracuse City School District to see who like their go-to person is for doing those translations. I know there's an organization on the north side. The gentleman's first name is Jay, and I cannot remember his last name for the life of me. But I could touch base with him. I'm sorry?
To Betty.
Oh, okay.
Jay Sabet. Yeah.
Yeah, I can touch base with him. I've run into him at numerous events, and I can just touch base with him and see what he thinks as to what we can do to kind of increase some participation. I mean, you know, if we have at least 3 or 4 more bodies, that would be nice. But, you know, I know it's a slow process, but I'd be willing to touch base with the school district to see what they do when they have to, you know, get these flyers out in different languages. And I also agree with Jihan to, you know, use City Hall for the languages that they use for certain.
Babette?
Hi, so after our last meeting, I did follow up. I did revise the FAQs and I did send to Jihan the translator, translation services that Interfaith Works uses. And so that she has that information. I also talked to Olive and she said when we do get other things out, she can help us get things out through Interfaith Works as well.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Any inroads to getting places to perhaps attend the meeting, going to the different libraries, and they don't. I'm at fires. I shrunk down. and they don't have, I'm sorry, can you hear me? They don't, they don't have the flyer. But yeah, Interfaith Works, not on this, you know, they don't seem to attend these things. I've sent a flyer certainly to their email. Faith Alliance, or the other one that does, that reaches out to all the different churches. So does anybody have a contact that can get those reaching persons? Because putting them in churches, it's a moot point if you don't have at least the allies like these large organizations.
I'm not sure how much everyone else got. You were in and out a little bit, Jackie, and it was I couldn't hear all of it.
Sorry, I'm fixing something. The is that better? I don't know how to put it. Sorry, if that, I hope that's better for folks. Interfaith Works, the other religious organizations that kind of do more of a reach. Peter Sarver does the Citizens United. I mean, we're kind of spinning our wheels if we're doing the individual churches, and I go into the different libraries who don't have the flyer as well. How do we reach out to these larger organizations that have that reach? You know, I know Faith Works, but I've noticed that they have, you know, I've not seen anybody come to any of these meetings, whether online or in person.
So what I'm hearing is, you know, about us really trying to think about the specific context that we have at some of these organizations. We can cast a wider net and have that personal connection so that our stuff can get out. Is that right, Jackie? Okay. If there's anything that I left out or anything that you feel like is important that you want to add, maybe in the chat would be like a good place just so we can all see your most important points that I did not.
No, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I think we have some good points to reflect on from our most recent meeting. There's some things like the time and dates we just can't change anymore, even though I think all of us would like to and see a need for, but that's just something we're gonna have to do next time. There are certain things around like the logistics, like mic setup and audio and all of that kind of stuff that we can look at and kind of always be tweaking and adjusting. So keeping just like this running list is helpful to us. And I just want to say personally, thank you very much, Jerry, for, you know, giving us that encouragement to not be discouraged by the state of our meetings so far. That is helpful to hear from the pros. So, okay. Anything else on the most recent meeting for processing? Okay. The next bit is for new business, and we need to start selecting dates and times for future meetings. So I think last time we had a pretty extensive doodle poll with a lot of different times and dates and everything, and we went and picked the 5 that were the highest for like weekends and evening and weekdays. And I think we'll still send out a doodle poll, but we're going to do it differently this time. We'll need to have everyone participate in that so that we can get a good sense of when everyone's going to be available. And then we can pick some new days and times and learn from some of these things like late evening meetings, things like that. It's just something that I don't think, and there's 15 of us plus professionals, and none of us like mentioned this or thought of this ahead of time. It was way too abstract. We just didn't know. So now we know. So I think next meeting, it would be wise to set some of those dates. So keep a lookout for an email regarding setting those dates or putting in availability for a doodle poll, because we'd like to be able to do that maybe next week or the week after, just be able to finalize some of those dates so everyone can plan around, because spring and summer dates will be tough. Everyone's, moving and grooving throughout the summer. And so let's just get it nailed in so we can plan around that kind of thing.
Should there be like a couple week lull between our last meeting of this session before our second session starts so we can make those maps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Our last round of public meetings is April 28th. And then we're not going to start doing the second round of public meetings. We, in the original timeline that we put out, it was the first week of May. I think we can stretch that into the second week of May so we can actually, give Josh some opportunity to present some maps to us, and we can, we'll probably have to have a series of meetings in the first 2 weeks of May where we nail down the maps we're going to present at our second set of public meetings. So, but the second set of public meetings will have to take place in the 6 weeks from, say, May 14th to June 30th. And I think, if we end up having 2 meetings in a week, that's fine with me. We don't have to space them out other than in that 6 week time frame. If we have 2 meetings in 1 week and no meeting in another week and 2 meetings, and those are the dates we have to nail down for everybody. But there is at least 2 weeks there where we're going to consider maps to present at the second set of public meeting. That basically starts April 29th after our last round of public meetings this time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Thanks to me. Thanks for outlining that timeline, John. It's perfect. So everyone will be prepared to kind of be serious about setting some dates next time, so we can get that squared away, and we have some exciting stuff ahead of us with actually being able to draw some of these maps and kind of look at what we're going to be doing. Tony is asking for support with getting coffee for our last 2 meetings. So that's probably good to address now. He will not be present. Would anyone else like to step in and grab that coffee? Colleen?
Yeah, I can take that over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So we went over kind of some of that timeline stuff, additional items not in the agenda. Jeff and Jerry, did you have anything for us that you wanted to add to our meeting tonight?
Nothing new at my end.
Okay.
Just wanted to mention that John's home sick today, so I don't know if he called into you all, but that's probably what he's not.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So this is, we'll still meet next week, and then we can hopefully finalize those dates and, do any last minute kind of prep stuff for our meeting at Henniger later on that week. Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
All good.
Okay. Any motions to adjourn? Maritza makes a motion. Melody seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm not opposed.
All right. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Have a great evening. I will see everyone next week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.